Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a review of the cream contour palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills and talk a little bit about what's been going on with the brand lately in the news and some of the backlash they've received in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement. First of all, I'm just going to do my moisturiser, and then I'm going to apply powder. I forgot what it's called. Setting spray. And then primer. Then after that I'll do the foundation as well. I'm just going to speed all that bit up because it's not what the video is about, but just to let you know that that's the products that I'm using, and then I will be going on to the Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. Okay, so now we've got a better base. Now I would say I just use the TikTok hack where you apply your powder, then your setting spray, then your primer, then your foundation. The foundation that I used was Revolution Conceal and Define, which I love and I've used before in previous videos. What I would say with doing this technique is I've found that it's highlighted like little areas where my skin's drier and you can't really see it so well on camera, but I don't really love that. Could be the combination of the primer and the powder, so it's possible that using different products would get a different result. I'll play around with that and see whether or not I can find one that works for you. But in the meantime, I'm going to move on to the cream contour kit from Anastasia Beverly Hills, and I'm going to show you how I do my contour. I use a foundation brush and I use the light palette. Okay, so I use a foundation brush. I find it easier to apply. There are brushes you can get specifically for contour. I don't use them at the moment. I've ordered a few, so I might play around with those, see if there's one I can recommend. But in the meantime, I recommend just using a foundation brush. It's really easy. It's easy to blend in things too then if you've got a beauty blender, any kind of sponge. And I do use the light palette, so you'll notice that the tones are very, very pale. You'll also notice that I've only really used these four. The lightest one I'll use generally first, and then the mid-tone that I use to almost create like towards like the ombre to make a more sort of blended out effect. And then this is the darkest one that I will use here, and the mid-tone here as well, and that's just for the buildable sort of coverage. When I use this kit, I don't need to use concealer at all. I find that it's quite heavy, and because it's cream you should actually be setting it with something as well, which kind of doesn't work necessarily with that hack that I've just used. But I use the no filter powder on my face there, and I actually usually also use Laura Mercier setting powder to sort of just finish my look anyway, so I will use that on top. But let's get straight to it. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to do the light shades. The reason that I want to do the light shades first is because if I leave those and then I'm about to start the dark, I can blend them out and then just build the dark on top without it covering. If you do the dark first and you're using the same brush, you're going to darken the light shades that you're using. And if you, yeah, it just doesn't work. Very first shade I'm going to use is just called Fair, and it's this one here. So when I'm doing the lightest shade, I can show you how I'm actually picking it up on the brush too. I literally like circle it like this so that I don't have to keep going back and forth, and I try and do like one side at a time. I keep it quite symmetrical. I think a lot of people do that. You don't have to do that, do it however you like, but the same areas basically will need to be highlighted no matter what. I tend to start with my inner eye just here, and I do here as well. I would also normally do this after having done an eye makeup look. So if you're doing eye makeup, don't do this first, do this second. It just absolutely snatches that line for any makeup that you've done on your eyes. So that is how I would do that. And then a little bit on my nose. I am going to put the next shade in there, so I'm not going to put too much because your nose isn't really that big. You don't need a ton of product for it. I do put a little here. And you can dab it on, you can apply it straight in, like make it as thick or as light as you really want. I do my chin as well. The kind of look that you're going for, like when you're thinking of this, is though you have like a light literally above your head, like what areas would stand out, and that's pretty much what you catch. I do tend to catch under here too, and I'll put the buildable other tone, which is the neutral tone, next to this so that it really sharpens the line when I do put the dark on there. But I've not re-dipped. This is just excess product that is on the brush. You don't want that to be too harsh. Otherwise, like it just looks too much, like it's overwhelming. I prefer like an airbrush look, mainly natural. Like I don't really want it to be overwhelming. So I'm now going into the neutral shade, and I'm just going to extend a little from where I was here along my eye and underneath this. What I'm also going to add now is a little bit here and a little bit at the side here. Now it's up to you if you want to do this. What I tend to do is put highlight on my Cupid's bow, but you can also just do a little bit of this palette here as well, if you don't particularly wear a lot of highlight. So that would be it for my lighter shades. I'm just going to let that sit for a second so it's a bit more blendable, and then I'm going to blend that out. Okay, so I let it sit for a little bit. I did add a little bit more of the neutral shade here, and I'm now just going to start to blend that out. What I'm just doing is lightly pulling that brush, and you see how much this product is spreading. Like you really don't need a lot. If you put on too much, then you're just going to overwhelm your face with product. And like at the end of the day, although that I love it does like a lot of the concealing for me, it's really not what the product is destined to do. This is far too much actually, I'm thinking just now. It looks so strange because I'm looking at it in the camera and it looks like a ton, and I'm looking at it in my mirror and it does not. So maybe we're fine. We'll see. If anything, this will be a lessons learned video. So talking of lessons learned whilst I'm just blending this out, what's happening at the moment with the brand is a lot of drama surrounding Norvina and Jackie Aina. I don't know how I pronounce her name. I've only ever read it. Basically, they were meant to be working with an influencer, and she happens to be a Black influencer, and obviously Black Lives Matter movement is at the forefront of people's minds right now, as it probably should have been for a long time, but we don't need to get into that. So it's at the forefront of people's mind, and we're talking about sort of like in the same way the Me Too movement did, talking about stories of people's experiences. And this lady in particular, and I'm so sorry but I'm forgetting her name, she's someone who does influencing in general, and she told them that she would be looking to connect, and that the amount that she charges per post is roughly I think it was $947 a post, but basically just shy of $1,000 US. So they said, yeah, sure, I'll put you in contact with Norvina's team, and they did. So she made an agreement with them, and she created some content for them on the basis of the amount that she had quoted, and they said, yeah, sure. And then they'd sent her a comment saying it would be for 2 pieces of content for the 1,000, not for 1 piece of content. So she was like, but she left it, which maybe wasn't the right thing to do, because if you give someone like your price point, they should honor that. But she was obviously thinking, listen, it still pays the bills, and she was happy to make the connect. So she was taking the L basically on that. So she did that, and they announced her as the person. But then when she actually got the contract through, it wasn't for the correct amount. the contract said that she would be doing 4 pieces of content for that, and then when she raised it and said that that wasn't what she had agreed, they basically said that that was the only sort of budget that they had for it. But in the meantime, she's already been announced and she's already created content for them on the agreement of like word of mouth. So like on an honor-based agreement, like you would think that that would be something that she would be able to like argue that she should be paid that same amount. And she eventually ended up just not agreeing to sign with them, like on the basis of that. So it's a whole drama. And then Norvina has been asked, you know, what's going on with this, and been like, oh, nothing, I don't know what happened, like that sort of like response, when it was like her company and like her contract essentially, and that's involved in it. And it's just kind of like distressing and sad, because like, why would you treat anyone like that? Now, I don't know if that is like in particular a racially motivated one, like I can't particularly comment on that. I don't know if the lady herself is trying to say that it is, but in general, like even if you just look at that on like the facts of its merit, like that's actually disgusting. Like if you make an agreement with someone, you should definitely maintain that agreement. Like your word is your bond kind of thing. So like, why would you, this is like going really badly, because like this is not how I usually even do it. I did that in like such a weird way, and I think I just added too much dark product because I'm too busy focusing on like the story I'm trying to tell. So I definitely need to adjust my technique. But the point of the matter is, should you be buying this palette at £42 and supporting a brand that actively supports influencers that are dealing in unethical practices? And that's kind of where you need to make your own decision. Because of that whole story, there are a lot of people who are saying, you know, boycott Anastasia Beverly Hills. I wouldn't say if you've already got it, stop using it. I would say that for a start. Like, that's very wasteful. It's not sustainable. It's not in line with what I would like this channel to represent. But if I was telling you to go out and buy a product right now, would I be saying to buy it from a brand who is now known for having issues with how they are dealing with people? I think that people should come first over product. There are alternatives out there in the market. I personally have used the NYX, not the cream contour kit, but I've heard very good things about the Revolution Pro, and they've got an HD one, which I believe is actually in their sale at the moment, and I would love to try that personally. That'll be something that's on my list. I'm already starting to hit pan. You can see this teeny little dot right here is me hitting pan in this palette, because I just love how it applies. I find it really easy to apply. I find it really easy to blend out. Like you've seen, even when I made like a mess there, like it was easily fixable, though I'm still not entirely sure why it looks different from this light than it does in my mirror, because I've got two mirrors. I can see one right here and one here, and it looks completely different to me in those mirrors. So like I'm going to need to adjust how I've got this set up, but that's another point. So yeah, that's what's going on with Anastasia Beverly Hills. So that's it for Anastasia Beverly Hills. There is a lot more to that story. What I would say is, if you're interested in buying a new product and you can't find a review online that says anything about like their ethics or sustainability, like on their own website, you can always like go to the news tab under Google, and you tend to get like a lot of information about what's going on. Even if it's on social media, the news generally picks it up just a little, and they do use sites such as BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, things like that under that little banner. And it just gives you a head start or an idea of who you might be supporting when you're purchasing. Things like this, like all we have in our power is really to boycott. We don't have the ability to enforce any rules or regulations on brands. We need to vote with our feet and vote with our cash. So when you're buying a product, it's so important that you make sure it's something you actually stand for. And unfortunately, a lot of the brands in the makeup industry at the moment are just not really doing a great job. I'm going to do a little section whilst reviewing, talking about how each brand is doing. That's what my focus is, and also talking about sustainability, inclusivity, things like that. So if you like this video, you can hit subscribe. You can keep an eye out for my new content. It is going to be happening fairly regularly as I continue to review the absolute plethora of makeup I already own. And I'm also going to be purchasing new makeup because I think I have a problem, and I just love trying new makeup out and love trying new things, love eye palettes, primers, everything. Like, I'm obsessed. Highlight is probably my favorite. I have like a million highlight, and I just ordered almost a full like just order of highlight from the Revolution Pro sale, which is only on right now. I don't know when you're going to be watching this video, but so sorry if you go to the site and there's not one on. But if it's now you're watching it, like look at when this was posted, go check it out. The baked heart highlighters I'm very excited about. The reviews are great. Some of them are being suggested in terms of like the finish and creaminess as a dupe for like Too Faced, and they're like £3.50. It's already a cheap brand, like definitely worth checking out.